And this kind of goes to the earlier comment I made, which is it makes sense to kind of do a test drive of the story first before you get serious. So I kind of like the idea, if you're going to the US to explore the market, talk to some venture people if you can get those meetings to kind of tell them about your business and what you're trying to build. You're not there yet, but what you're trying to build, you're getting some feedback, and people will tell you, well, we wouldn't fund you because we just don't do this, or we wouldn't fund you because you've got to do this and this first. Then you know what you have to do. It's actually pretty good. So I think that's actually a valuable way to figure out what the investment story is. I want to talk a little bit about, let's assume that you've gone to the US in a form where you've got verification that the business could work in the US. And you've got, and you're pretty clear that you're on a path to get money. And I told you that you have to have a platform company in the US, a parent company in the US, with a subsidiary in Poland. How do you do it? All right, so let's kind of get a bit technical at a high level. There's a tax issue, which is if you exchange shares between any company, between a Polish company and a US company, because if you've got a parent company in the US, that means all of your equity interests are in the Polish, or no, switch from the Polish company into the US company. So you're moving shares over. If you actually exchange shares, that's a taxable event, even in Poland, right? So what happens is, you could say, well, it doesn't matter because US has no value. The IP is going to stay in Poland, you know, and all the people are in Poland. And I'm going to switch before I do the financing, right? So I actually have to structure then for the financing to happen. What happens is the government in most countries does a look back and they say, well, you got a term sheet that says you're raising $5 million and the company's valued at $10 million. Post money is $15 million, but the value is $10 million of the US company, and you guys own half of the shares in the US company. Therefore, we're going to tax you $5 million because that's the capital gain on your nominally priced Polish shares in the US, right? Because you're moving it over. Now you can say, that's ridiculous, that's ridiculous. It's actually not ridiculous. If you're a German company, you're screwed. That's the way they look at it, okay? If you're a Spanish company, same thing. If you're a Polish company, not a problem, because you just restructure. Here's the way it works. You set up a US company, you get shares in the US company through options. So when you set up the US company, it's a subsidiary of the Polish parent, wholly owned. But you give yourself options to the founding team. And the options are priced when the US company has no value. And it's before you get a term sheet, all right? And the US company, you're never going to run revenues through the US company. Why do that? Take the revenue back into Poland. So the US company, it's an agent of the Polish company. This is pre-funded. So its sole job is to be a sales and marketing platform to sell product into the US market. And it can actually take the money into a US bank account that belongs to the Polish parent. It's pretty cool. The money comes back into Poland. The US company never sees the revenue. It never has any value. So think about it. No revenue runs through the US company. The IP stays in Poland. You don't have a term sheet. The US company is worth nothing. It's just a company. That's it. It's like a shell company, right? You get your options when that is the status of the company. When you're going to fund the company, what happens is, voila, now you have to get your shares. So you exercise your option at, a penny a share, a tenth of a penny a share, and then you contribute your Polish shares into the US company. It's a capital contribution. You're giving property into the US company. It's not an exchange. And it works. It works. It does. It's great. You don't have to get approval of the tax authorities in Poland. You do in Denmark. You do in Sweden. You don't have to do it in Poland. It's pretty cool.